Well, hey there, gang. It's Jim
And Christie.
Jacobus with Your Marriage Matters podcast number 140. And, babe, we're in a month of trouble. Actually, gang, I think we're in a very important month talking about I am not the enemy. What do we do when things get challenging? Kind of some bad news in that we had hoped to have Ben and Megan Coleman on, and it's just not going to work out. Unfortunately, they've got a very, very busy schedule. A lot of big stuff coming up in April, so it's not going to work out. But we are going to work to get them on the podcast here in the future. And so today, we're actually have a very special guest with us, and she is an online counselor. Works on two different online platforms, both Talkspace and BetterHelp. And babe, do you deal with couples that have problems from time to time?
Occasionally, yes, I do. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, you're just not going to say anything about it, or well, again, from a privacy standpoint, Christy would never talk about a client or anything like that. But I know that she gets tons and tons and tons of opportunity to work with clients. And babe, we're going to look at I am not the enemy today from two different perspectives. And one is, how does a couple handle a problem coming from the outside? And then how does a couple handle a problem coming from the inside? And I don't know how we're going to talk about that because we haven't had any problems in
between the inside
in ages between the two of us.
Yes, definitely.
That I'm aware of. Well, she's just going to sit over there and she's going to talk here in just a minute because I'm going to ask her a bunch of questions. But gang, again, it's really easy when things get tough. We get under pressure, stress, challenges, life in general. We saw just a tough example of that this past weekend that we'll talk about a little bit. But when you think about a couple, and again, we have these ourselves, but when you think about couples that struggle with something that's coming at them from the outside, loss of a job, illness, relationship challenges with friends and family or work, or as our friends George and Sandy struggled this past weekend. We had gone to lunch with them at a place called Chicken and Pickle in San Antonio, only for them to come out and find out that their brand new Ford F-450 truck that they hauled their RV with was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And
in broad daylight.
In broad daylight, 3:00 in the afternoon. I was sick myself, mm-hmm. And then angry and frustrated. I can just imagine what they were going through. But right. What a picture of grace and unity they were, and they handled all that. But when you think about it, things that come at somebody from the outside, what are some of the things that you share with your clients? What do you recommend to them?
Well, just to reiterate something that you said earlier, all of the examples that we're going to use are kind of a conglomeration of patients or clients. It's not one particular situation. For confidentiality reasons, I like to share concepts, not specifics. Sure. So this will be kind of global. But in these times, we're just beginning to realize how much COVID and quarantining and all the implications from having a global pandemic meant to couples. And I saw something the other day about the large number of divorces that happened because of the stress. And one of the things it pointed out was, if the marriage was in trouble to begin with, and then you add external, stimuli into that mix, it makes for even more, like adding gas to the fire.
Right.
So that was one of the things that was obvious. But when things are coming to us from the outside, it can be difficult because the stress on the relationship is still going to be there.
Right.
Money challenges. There were so many people who recently, inflation, all the things that are going on with, higher gas prices, higher meat prices, cause us to have a problem from the outside.
Right.
And how we tend to deal with it is our own unique perspective of dealing with it. And it's not something you caused or I caused, but we're in it and we have to navigate it together. So a lot of times what I'll tell couples is the reminder, like we just said, your spouse is not the enemy. They're in this ship too, and you're going to have to work to it to navigate it. And sometimes some people like to process by verbally saying what's going on with them, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and a lot of times, myself included, on actually on both of these, is I don't want to have to be confronted by all the possibilities. What does it look like if a recession is coming? What does it look like if gas prices continue to go up? What is the best way? Because nobody knows what the future holds.
Right.
So one of the things that I'll tell the couple is, okay, a reminder, aren't you glad you have someone to navigate this with?
Right.
Wouldn't it be scary to be in this situation by yourself? And so going back to becoming a team and going back to, okay, let's use the resources that the team has to solve problems. Now, do you have any thoughts on that before?
Well, the question I have is, what do you do when you don't feel like your partner is a teammate?
Well, there
I mean, let's say that let's say that we go through what George and Sandy went through, and I don't feel like you're there.
Mm-hmm.
How does a couple? I mean, again, I don't feel that way about you because you're always there for me. We'll talk about that in our next podcast. But how does somebody handle it when they feel like they're under a lot of stress, they got a lot going on, and they don't feel like their teammates there for them?
I think that's one of the reasons why people come to counseling, is because the normal thing of processing our struggles by communicating can become a problem where they can't talk about it anymore. So there's one way: make it safe so I can say what I'm thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
And make it safe so that you can express what's going on with you, even if it might not be something I want to hear. Even if it's like, oh, with recession, we're going to have to tighten our belts. And some of the things that we enjoy doing, maybe a travel, maybe something like that, would be something that we're going to have those difficult conversations. But to remember that we're on the same team.
Okay.
The other thing that I think can be helpful when couples are struggling with just a lot of negativity and just things, when you listen to the news or when you look at kind of current situations, you can get bogged down by the negative, and to reprocess all the things that we have to be grateful for. And to go back to our friends George and Sandy, one of the things, it was just heartbreaking to sit there and see what was going on. It was neither one of them's fault. It was something that evil in the world exists, and they both handled it together. And I remember Sandy at one point saying, well, here's what we can be thankful for. It's just a thing. It's just a material possession. Nobody got hurt. Everybody's fine. We have insurance and all that. So to kind of go back and look at the positives can be another source of, reminding ourselves that we have a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah. One of the things I thought they did really well was, I mean, clearly they were upset, and they should have been, and I would have been too. But they both did a great job of keeping it in perspective. Mm-hmm. And we wound up helping them out they had taken their RV up there to stay in during the pickleball tournament we were playing in San Antonio together. And we had to haul their RV back to Rockport for them because they didn't have a truck. And we got to ride all the way back. Well, again, I think one of the things they did really good was they allowed themselves to be irritated mm-hmm. and upset and angry, but at the same time they didn't blow it up into the world is coming to an end. Mm-hmm. They talked about their health, they talked about how blessed they were, they were talking about we'll figure it out. And again, I think that's one of the skills that couples that we see that really struggle with, is that they can't keep a problem in its proper perspective. Mm-hmm. In other words, they take something that's small and they make it a mountain. Mm-hmm. And then, how do you solve that when it's not that big a deal? Or they take something that's a mountain and they minimize it to the point that they can't handle that either. But George and Sandy did a great job of keeping it in the right frame. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great skill set.
Right. And sometimes, like I just said, that was an external problem that they had to navigate together. And because of that, there were lessons learned. Yeah. There were things
we learned lessons.
Right. And they said, from now on, here's what we're going to do, and kind of used it as a growth opportunity. No one wants to go through pain just so they can learn things, but pain does make us more resilient. Right. And right. Pain does, and suffering can be used as lessons that we can learn. And just think, as a married couple, how many things we've been through, And because of the experience, we're stronger because of it. Like
Right.
we tell people all the time, when you have conflict, it might be uncomfortable, it might be difficult, but learning to navigate it and knowing that the person is there for you
Right.
can actually be a source of strength.
Absolutely. Yeah. Confidence in each
Exactly.
other.
One of the things that I see sometimes that if somebody is struggling with something internally, like self confidence, mental health issues, like depression, anxiety, that can be difficult because the enemy seems to be invisible, or
Right.
the enemy seems to be something that you think is easy to solve and it's not.
Right.
And so that can be really tough because I'm going to need to lean on you to help me get better by helping support me through
Hmm.
something that, like I said, you can't see the enemy. So that can be another thing that can be
Yeah, and
difficult.
I think one of the important things there that we have, many of the things that we attach to Team Jacobus and the fact that we're a team is that if Christie's hurting, then I'm hurting, whether I'm actually physically struggling with it or not. I mean, recently you've been struggling with a bad knee.
Mm-hmm.
I have tons of empathy for that because having gone through
And
2 total knee replacements,
replacements.
I have a lot of empathy for that. But at the same time, my knee's not hurting. But if your knee is hurting and you're struggling, then we don't look at it, well, that's your problem. Good luck. God bless. You certainly didn't do that to me when I went through my knee replacements. I believe that if one of us is hurting, whether it's physically or emotionally or mentally or whatever, then we hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't hurt to the same extent that you do, but because I'm so invested in Team Jacobus, it'd be like if we're watching some NCAA basketball yesterday, and if one of my teammates got hurt, I wouldn't go, well, there's just one teammate, just plug somebody else in. I go, no, that's Joe.
Yeah.
We've been through battles together. I worried about him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not hurt, but I'm worried about him. And so, gang, we want you to get to that place where you believe that if the team is hurting, then you're hurting as well. And now, what do I do? What can I do? Not necessarily to help you. Obviously, I want to, but what can I do to help the team?
Mm-hmm.
And
Support.
how can I support you? What are the things I can do that help with your knee? What are we going to do together to solve this thing? And I think that's such an important part of all this. And we're going to talk more about that next week, gang. We're going to get you some really detailed stuff. Christy's got some great things, and I got some stuff I want to share. So we'll get into more detail about that next week.
Right.
But so that's the problem on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't make each other an enemy simply because we're frustrated
Right.
or stressed or
Or
anything.
angry.
And
Or
you're the closest one, so
right.
I'm going to take it out on you. Sadly,
Well, but think
I've
about
never done that. But
think about sometimes when you have challenges at work, or we have challenges with folks that we can't necessarily show how angry that's made us, or we're
yeah,
hurt or disappointed, or any number of things. You can't go to your boss and just start railing on them for injustices or fairness issues or anything. So it comes home, and I remember when I was a manager, sometimes I'd come home and I just want to vent about the day,
right.
because I couldn't really, go into work and all of a sudden start losing my mind because of things that had happened.
I told you I'd come do it for you, though.
Yes, no kidding. And that kind of goes back
I'll go
to,
take care of those
right,
people.
Right. You can't fix it. You can help me think through it and feel it.
But there's something in that though,
Mm-hmm.
because if you come home and I'm like going, I don't have time for this. That's stupid. Just put on your big girl panties and go deal with it. Then I do become kind of the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come home and I'm irritated, and I'm going, I'll just go up there and take care of them for you. I'll go whip their behinds or whatever. And I'm listening to you, and you feel like, no, Jim's in this with me.
Exactly.
Then I'm not the enemy.
Right.
And you feel like you can bring that stuff home.
Right.
And share it with me. I think that's really where we want to get to, is where we feel like no matter what's going on, I can bring it home, and Jim's going to listen to me, and he'll help me process through it. And sometimes Jim might help you go, well, that's just stupid. Why am I upset about that? I'm gifted at that.
Yeah, and see the humor in the silliness. But sometimes I think when other people are having a problem, it might not be a problem for you. It might seem silly to you that I'm having a problem with let's say the task of delegation, or I'm having a problem because people were what I thought dismissive or mean to me, and that might not be something you struggle with. But knowing your partner well enough to say,
Yeah, I get
listen to
that.
them, and I get that, and empathize and be there for them, and giving them the time and space to do that. Because I've had couples say, "You're still dealing with that? Why don't you quit your job?" Well, quitting your job isn't always going to solve the problem.
Right.
So being there for your partner can be extremely helpful.
So what advice? I mean, if you can remember back the last time we had a problem between the two of us ages ago,
Yeah.
Maybe
6 minutes ago.
6 minutes. Do we have a problem on here I didn't know about? Probably so. What's your advice for couples whenever it's really something they're struggling with between the two of them? And again, all different kinds of things. This is not like somebody went out of their way to create a problem, but life creates problems. The fact we live in a small space together can create problems. The fact that you grew up different place than I did creates problems. I can be insensitive or whatever. We're broken people. We're not perfect.
Right.
And that creates problems. So what do you tell couples in that situation?
Well, I use 3 C's when the problem is it was with you internally. Say the physical health,
or with you,
the mental health, or me.
yeah,
I'm talking specifically to you. I didn't cause it. I can't cure it, and I can't change it.
Okay.
A lot of times can be the things. The 3 C's. I didn't cause it. I can't change it, and I can't cure it.
That's good stuff.
So sometimes I have to remind people that the issues that the other person has going on, like with regards to my knee, you can be empathetic for it, but you're not the person responsible for solving the problem that's going on with that. Mental health issues, physical issues, spiritual issues, even. The other person can be a sounding board, but it's not their responsibilities with those 3 C's.
Okay, well, so let me stop. What if I did cause it? What if I can change it?
With regards to a problem going on internally with
between
me,
the two of us.
Yeah, well, then that becomes a different situation. If I'm saying specifically like
Okay.
the knee. Now the next 3 C's would be the ones where you could because then it becomes, could you collaborate with me to help solve it? Could we compromise on it to make things better? And can we communicate about it to get to a point where we can have some discussion? Because some problems don't get easily solved. So the third C in that is counsel. Could we get counseling? And I don't necessarily mean from a professional counselor, but could we go could we go to somebody who we trust, who could be a mentor for us? And when the problem is between us, and you're the person and I'm the person who are in conflict, could we get counsel to say, what would you say is the best step for us? The reason why a counselor a lot of times exists is they want a third party to look at the problem and offer up suggestions and solutions.
Yeah.
So those 3 C's, like I said, collaboration. Can we work on this together to come to some kind of reasonable solution?
Yeah.
Could we compromise? I know a lot of times compromise doesn't work because it sounds like both of us aren't getting what we want, but sometimes compromise is necessary. And then the third C becomes communication and about counseling.
Okay, well, so we didn't talk about this when we were planning the podcast, but I'm going to ask you a really hard question. What if one of us has developed a character flaw? A drinking problem, a gambling problem, a spending problem, integrity problem, a character problem. I've become a slob around the house. What then?
Well,
I mean, let's say it was me, all right, and it's not, gang, it's not. But let's say it was me that had one of those problems, and you're trying to figure out what to do. What would you tell somebody out there whose spouse is struggling with something like that?
Well, in some cases, it would depend. The substance abuse, I would definitely say don't think you can solve that by yourself, because it kind of goes back to, you can't cure it, you can't change it, and you didn't cause it. So
that's why I'm sorry, but that's why I ask you the question, because I think there are people listening to this that there's a gambling problem, there's an addiction problem, there's something like that, and the spouse is probably overwhelmed. tries to figure out how can they respond, and then they become codependent because they begin to enable it rather than just going, look, I can't, there's nothing I can do about this. I didn't cause it. I can't cure it. I can't change it. That's when that's when you really need to go to that third C, which is you need to find some professional help to deal with that, because that's not easy.
Right. And one of the things I'm not a licensed chemical dependency counselor. That's not my area of expertise. But one of the things that we oftentimes would say to people who came in for marriage counseling, but they had an addiction that was overwhelming and the main source of their problems, get that problem solved first.
Yeah,
because then your marriage would be on a different plane. And,
I've learned that from you a long time ago, and it's been very helpful for me, is that until you get the addiction problem solved, then that real person's not even in the counseling room to help.
Right.
There's nothing you can do about them.
Right. And also the other thing is that sometimes occurs is we need to take ownership for what's going on with us. Addictions, like the ones you were just mentioning, need probably some expertise and guidance from above, because from above, yes, but from someone else, because it can be so difficult to navigate those waters when that's going on. Other character issues, such as, like you said, lack of integrity, or things where they are doing things that you don't like in their character. Once again, that might be difficult, because how do you separate that out so you don't feel like they're being attacked? So there are some ways that you can deal with things to kind of point out to people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes with counseling clients, I say, do you want me to be the anchor that kind of keeps you on line with things that you do value? Sometimes the reason why people have a change in character could be a cultural change because of work. It could be something where it's acceptable in certain social situations to do things that go against your core beliefs and values. And so your spouse might need to be there to say, this isn't the person you want to be, or be the sounding board for that. And the other thing that can happen sometimes is you need to be a sail so you can help people get out of a situation that they know they want to change.
Right.
So,
it was interesting when you were talking about that. It kind of dawned on me that, as I've had the privilege of helping people, not in the capacity that you do as a professional, but certainly in working with people in divorce care and things like that, one of the things that I've always shared with folks is the best advice I would give you is make sure you're working hard on becoming the best version of yourself you can be. Mm-hmm. Because that takes us back to Luke 6:41-42 last week. We talked about where I've got a plank in my own eye and I'm trying to help you with a speck in your eye. Well, let's say you've got a plank in your eye and it's obvious. Well, if I'm busy trying to get the planks out of my own eye, then I'm a little more gracious in my conversation with you about the one in your eye. And consequently, I think that's our best strategy for helping somebody that's really struggling with a character problem. And again, when I realize how imperfect I am and I'm working hard on that, then I'm going to not overlook when you are imperfect. Right. But the way I'm going to deal with it's going to be a completely different tone of voice, a different approach and everything. And sometimes, those things are just difficult to get rid of.
Right. I mean, and some of the things that you just said, if you think there's a quick fix or an easy solution, or you can just solve this problem very quickly, just stop doing that. I have people all the time who have a partner who struggles with mental health and just go, just be happy.
Yeah.
If only it were truly that easy.
No, it's not.
And some of the character flaws and problems that people are experiencing, there's not a quick fix. I hate to admit that. There's not a simple solution. It takes work. It takes diligence. It takes commitment. It takes trying to become the best version of yourself. Yeah. And a lot of times, the one that I just mentioned, low self-esteem. Sometimes people think if I just tell you enough how amazing you are, then you'll just get it. And the best source of repair is self-repair, is taking care of yourself, and also self-soothing and taking care of your needs, and in the internal validation that comes with that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, for some situations, it's not an easy solution. It's not a thing that can be solved with just a couple of things. It's going to take some hard work at becoming that best version of yourself.
Yeah, and what I would share with people, babe, is that it is hard work, and sometimes it can take a long time.
Very
It
long
can
time.
take a long time, but I think it's the most worthy, the best return on investment work you'll ever do. Because when we get this relationship right between the two of us, the rest of things in life get better too.
Right.
Because I believe our relationship with God is first, our relationship with each other is second, and when we've learned to work hard on that, we've learned to uh, constantly be becoming the best version of ourselves. We realize how imperfect we are, so I'm a little more gracious when you're imperfect. All of those things are I think, what marriage is really all about.
Right.
Is is realizing that, and then once we kind of begin to get it, quote, then I think we get to that place where no matter what comes at us, internal or external, we have the confidence in each other that we are going to fix this. We are going to handle it, and it gives us the confidence, I think, that you and I have in each other, that says whatever the world brings us, we're not asking for trouble, but if it does, then okay,
Right.
we're going to handle it.
And sometimes the reminder that life does have its, ebbs and valleys and stuff. So it, that thing, that how lucky we are to have somebody with you, so you're not trying to solve it by yourself.
Yeah. And so, heaven forbid, the day ever comes where you walk out and your F-450 has been stolen. You'd be as gracious and level-headed as George and Sandy were. So, gang, if you're listening to this and you want more information, you can go to yourmarriagematters.com/140 for episode 140. Yourmarriagematters.com/140 to get everything. And by the way, we'd love for you to subscribe to wherever you are getting this, whether it's a podcast on YouTube, a podcast on Spotify or iTunes. Subscribe to it. That way you'll get it in your inbox every week whenever we pop these things out on Wednesdays. And then do us a favor, like and share. Numbers are growing, babe. More and more people watching the podcast, YouTube channel every day. And best place to go, we would encourage you to go to Your Marriage Matters Facebook group, where we have all kinds of other resources and everything. Because at the end of the day, gang, the reason we do this is because we believe your marriage matters, not all marriages. We believe your marriage matters. Of course, believe all of them do, but we believe your marriage matters to you, to your family, your community, to your workplace, to all kinds of ways. And we want to do everything we can to help you experience all the things that you hope for when you said I do, and that you would have the healthy, vibrant marriage that God intended for you to have. So, gang, again, please trust that we believe that your marriage matters no matter where you're at right now. If there's anything we can do, we're glad to do that. And babe, we talk about the whole idea of the confidence it brings whenever trouble comes your way. We've solved a lot of problems together.
We have.
And it gives me a lot of confidence in you and in our marriage and in the future. And because of that and many other reasons, I absolutely adore you.
And I love you too.
You guys have a great week out there. Take care.